In the past couple of days, many people have been talking about something unexpected, a leaked group chat that involves some of the top officials in the Trump administration. At the center of it all is National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Here's what happened in simple terms. Before the U.S. launched a military action against the Houthi rebels on March 15, Waltz accidentally added an editor-in-chief of a far-left magazine, The Atlantic, into a private Signal chat. This group was supposed to be only for high-level government discussions. So how did someone like that get in? And what does it tell us about Trump team? In this video, I will walk you through what really happened in the so-called leak, why this is about more than just a mistake, how this situation shows how Trump's cabinet actually works together, and the bigger message that might be sent, maybe even on purpose. Let's break this down into simple chapters so it's easy to follow. When Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor of The Atlantic, was accidentally added to a private Signal group and saw the confidential conversations happening inside, he quickly took screenshots and shared what he saw with the public. That's when the media first storm began. Within hours, left-wing media outlets were buzzing, and Democrats leaders were celebrating as if they had just uncovered the scandal of the year. They believed this leak could bring down National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and maybe even shake up Trump's entire administration. Headlines flash across the internet. Massive national security breach. Trump's official in hot water after leak. Waltz should be fired or jailed. Critics from the Democrat side didn't hold back. Senator Elizabeth Warren called it clearly illegal and said discussing national security matters on Signal was extremely dangerous. Senator Chris Coons went even further, claiming that every single government official in that chat group had committed a crime and should be put behind bars. It seems like the perfect moments for Trump's critics, one careless mistake that could take down a top advisor. But then came the facts. Senator Tom Cotton, a senior Republican and chair of the Senate's Intelligence Committee at the time, stepped forward to clarify a very important point. The use of Signal wasn't something new or secretive introduced by Trump. In fact, the Signal app was first authorized for official use by the Biden administration as a secure encrypted communication tool that met presidential record-keeping standards. So what Waltz and others were doing was simply continuing the policy that had already been in place. The Signal app wasn't illegal. It wasn't some back channel for shady deals. It was a tool approved and supported by the previous administration. After this clarification aired on TV, and tone shifted. The same Democrats who had been calling for jail time and resignation suddenly stopped talking. The headlines quieted down. The excitement faded, but this wasn't the end of the story. In fact, it was just beginning because what we learned from the group chat is far more interesting than the leak itself. It gave us a real look at how Trump's team actually works, how decisions were made, and how they handle disagreements within the cabinets. So after the buzz about the leak started to settle, a new question grabbed everyone's attention. How on earth did Jeffrey Goldberg, one of Trump's biggest media critics, get into a private Signal group meant only for top White House officials? This wasn't just some random journalist. Jeffrey Goldberg is the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, a magazine that constantly bashes Trump and the Republican Party. If there's one media outlet that never says a single good word about conservatives, it's Atlantic. To give you an idea of how much Goldberg opposes Trump, back in 2020, he published a story claiming Trump said that American soldiers who died in war were losers and suckers. This story caused a huge stir at the time, and even though many close to Trump said it was completely false, Goldberg stood by it. Strangely, Trump never sued him, but the rumor stuck in the people's mind. So now imagine the same guy who's been a loud anti-Trump voice in the media for years, suddenly showing up in a confidential group chat with the vice presidents, defense secretary, CIA director, and other high-level officials. It didn't make sense, and people wanted answers. Here's where it gets interesting. Signal, the messaging app used in this case, isn't a regular group chat. You can't just search for someone and add them. You have to already have their contact saved in your phone. That means someone from Mike Waltz's team had Goldberg's phone number saved, which was the first red flag. President Trump later told NBC that it was likely a mistake was made by one of Waltz's aides. He explained that on Signal, many people who shorten names, initials, or nicknames like just JD or SK to keep things private. So if two people on your contact list have similar names or initials, it's very easy to mix them up and accidentally add the wrong person. Trump said that Goldberg's displayed name looked similar to the senior White House officials, and the aide probably thought they were adding the official, not realizing they had just invited the editor of The Atlantic into one of the most sensitive discussions going on at the time. And let's be honest, of all the people you could accidentally invite, Goldberg might be the worst possible choice. Even those close to Trump joked that it couldn't have been a worse mistake. But here's the twist. Instead of alerting anyone that he was in the wrong group, Goldberg stayed silent. He watched, he took notes, and later he published a long article describing what he saw, framing it was from his own point of view. He claimed he stayed in a group to observe what he thought might be scam or hoax. But think of that, if someone truly believed they were added to a fake government group, wouldn't the responsible thing be to report it or leave immediately? Instead, he stayed and let the conversation go on, collecting information without anyone realizing. That's where things started to feel less like a mistake and more like a setup. Or at the very least, something was suspicious. So to recap, Jeffrey Goldberg, a strong Trump critic, was added to a private government's group chat. Signal doesn't allow random ads. You must already have a contact saved. Trump said it was a simple mix-up because of the similar names or aliases. Goldberg stayed silent, didn't report the mistake, and later used the info to write a story. And while the Democrats hoped this mistake would take down Waltz and embarrass the Trump team, what actually came out of this chat might surprise you, because the messages inside didn't reveal chaos or poor leadership. They revealed something else entirely. That's what we're going to break down next. Now, here's the part no one expected. Even though this group chat was leaked, there was no military secrets revealed. The actual plans, like target locations, timelines, and strike details, were never discussed in a chat. Those things were sent through secure government's email systems, meant specifically for high-level operations. But here's what was in a chat, something even more valuable to the public. A behind-the-scenes look at how Trump's top team actually thinks, talks, and makes big decisions together. Think of it like accidentally opening the door to a high-level strategy room. You wouldn't hear anyone shouting or blindly following orders. You'd hear something else, real conversation, real disagreements, and serious thought behind every action. Jeffrey Goldberg, who stayed in the chat quietly the whole time, later shared the message he saw. The group included Vice President J.D. Vance, Defense Secretary Hegseth, CIA Director, National Intelligence Director, Treasury Secretary, and other senior White House officials. They were all brought together to discuss how the U.S. should respond to the Houthi rebel attacks that were disrupting shipping routes in the Red Sea and Suez Canal. And here's the things that really get interesting. Vice President Vance openly disagreed with the idea of launching a strike. He pointed out that only 3% of U.S. trade goes through the Suez Canal, while Europe has 40% of their trade passing through that area. So his question was simple. Why should the US be the one who take action when Europe is the one with more at stake? This wasn't just a side comment. It was a strong challenge to the plan that was forming. He even said he felt like the US was once again cleaning up after Europe. And here's what's important. He said this in front of everyone, including the president's closest advisors. There was no fear of punishment. No one shut him down. Instead, others responded with respect. Defense Secretary Hegseth replied directly to Vance's concerns. He acknowledged them, thanked him for speaking up, and said it was important that all opinions were heard. Hegseth also explained why the decision to act couldn't be delayed, mentioning risk of appearing weak, the danger of Israel acting on its own, and the fear that ceasefire talks at Gaza might collapse. So what does all this mean? It means that Trump's inner circle doesn't operate like a dictatorship. It's not a place where only one voice is allowed or where everyone blindly agrees with the president. It's a place where people argue, question, and weigh risk out loud together. And that's something the public doesn't get to see often. This leaked chat, instead of showing chaos, actually revealed a team that was serious, careful, and willing to debate hard topics. And it proved that even at the very top of the government, there was room to disagree and still move forward as a team. Now, let's get back to what Mike Waltz actually said in the chat. This is where things even get more interesting. Waltz pointed out something important. Yes, Europe stands to gain more from this military action against the Houthi rebels because they rely heavily on trade passing through the Suez Canal. But he also made one thing clear. Only the United States has the power, resources, and speed to respond quickly and carry out a mission like this. Then he said something that caught a lot of attention. Waltz shared the Departments of Defense and the State Departments were already working on a plan to calculate the cost of the mission and then pass those costs on to Europe. That's right. The US wasn't offering a foot the bill out of the goodwill. They were saying, we will handle it, but you're going to pay for it. Let's pause on that for a second. This small piece of the conversation reveals two very important things. The US was still willing to lead, but they were no longer willing to carry the weight alone. Second, the Trump administration had a clear strategy to make Europe take more responsibility, especially when the issue directly affected them more than it did to America. This changes how we see the leak, because maybe this wasn't just a clumsy mistake, maybe it was a signal to Europe, a way of saying, we are not doing your job anymore. If you want our help, you're going to have to pay your share. After all, this message wasn't just about the Houthis. It was part of a bigger pattern in Trump's foreign policy. Don't rely on the US to protect the world for free. Step up and carry your own weight. Even Elon Musk couldn't help but joke about this situation. He reposted an article titled something like, Genius Trump leaks war plan to the Atlantic. The place no one reads anyway. Then Musk added his own sarcastic comments. The second page of the Atlantic is the best place to hide a body because no one ever looks there. Trump even reposted Musk's joke, clearly amused by it. It was a funny way of brushing off a leak, implying that even if Goldberg saw something, it wouldn't matter because nobody really pays attention to the Atlantic anymore. Now, let's be honest, the leak did happen, but what matters more is what we learned from it. This wasn't about carelessness. It was about strategy, message control, and diplomacy on the whole new level. It showed us how Trump's team was planning not just for military action, but also how to shift global responsibility, especially to European allies who have long depended on the US to act first. And that brings us to the final takeaway. So yes, technically, it was a leak, but what actually got exposed wasn't top secret military targets or dangerous national security information. What got revealed was something deeper, a rare, unfiltered glimpse into how Trump's inner circle really works. And What did we see? We saw that cabinet members are allowed to disagree openly and directly, even with the president. We saw real debates about major decisions, not just rubber stamping ideas. We saw that the team was not only thinking about action, but also how to explain those actions to the American people. We saw that even in the private and quiet chats, they were thinking strategically about America's role in the world and how to handle allies like Europe. That's not the picture of a messy, disorganized team. It's a picture of a government that works through conversation, disagreements, and careful planning, something that rarely gets shown in public. So maybe the biggest story here isn't so-called scandal, it's the behind-the-scenes teamwork, thoughtfulness, and even restraints that we rarely hear about in the headlines. This wasn't just a careless accident, it was a moment where the curtain got pulled back. And instead of chaos, we saw leadership in motion in a world where drama often drowns out substance. This league gave us something valuable, a real look at how decisions are made, how strong voices are heard, and how strategy, not emotion, is guiding the conversation at the top. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please share and subscribe. See you in the next video.